Good evening, Razorback Nation. We are back with episode 84 of Hawgs on the Hill podcast, your go-to source for an in-depth dive on all things Arkansas sports. We're brought to you by our friends over at Razor Pigs. Looking good never felt so fun. Razor Pigs is the Arkansas-born brand bringing some serious style, the golf course, tailgate, and everywhere in between. From high-quality polos to head-turn hats, they've got what you need to rep the natural state with pride. Found it right here at home and now run by a Razorback-loving family. Razor Pigs is where comfort meets cool. So go hog wild and shop Razor Pigs today at razorpigs.us and our friends over at Scarlet Letter, Arkansas's very own handcrafted spiked seltzer. You can check them out today. And if you are in Northwest Arkansas, check out the Core Brewery Tap Room, where you can get Scarlet Letter and all its various flavors on tap, as well as their new hard iced teas. It is a Thursday night. No midweek game this week. How's it going, Zane?
Yeah, a little bit of basketball withdrawal. But hey, maybe the rest was good for us. It's been a good week, back in the office. So kind of back in a normal routine, but can't complain too much. How about you?
Right. Yeah, I agree. It's weird not having the game this week, but the rest is probably good for the squad. But yeah, I'm glad that all this snow and gross weather has melted away, and unfortunately it leaves some mud behind. So I've got a few muddy puppies, but other than that, good to be back.
We got some footprints around the house right now. So
oh yeah, so no hiding who goes where now anymore. So
oh yeah, for sure.
But with no midweek game this week, we'll dive into another topic that has, kind of been making its rounds this week, different social media, radio, whatnot. But, and that's with Arkansas football. So, earlier this week, they were talking about how Coach Silverfield talked with Peyton Hillis on the Pig Trail Nation. And, they were talking about, different things, in-state recruiting, whatnot, and we know how he's putting an emphasis on that. But one of the big things that I think caught a lot of people and has really taken off is how, on Pig Trail Nation, of course, publicly and across the state, Silverfield came out and, was very welcoming Peyton Hillis and being like, hey, man, anytime you want to get back to campus or, come visit, come walk through practice, whatever, just let me know. We'd love to have you back. And, it was interesting because Peyton Hillis didn't hold anything back really in terms of he just pretty much was like, that's great to hear. I love that. I'll definitely take you up on that. But, that's something that, they haven't had in years. And, we knew some rumblings about, potential issues with former players not necessarily being welcomed back when Pittman was here, which is a weird thing to think with, Pittman really buying into the whole, Arkansas and, the history and stuff. But then, you don't have any of the former players back, or you don't, kind of do anything with the alumni or anything like that. And so, it makes you think, and I think just adds another layer or another win for Coach Silverfield and, what he's doing here to start his tenure here at Arkansas.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, I think, I don't think Pittman was necessarily blocking former players from coming in and all, but I think it's just kind of that intentionality with Coach Silverfield to reach out to those guys here. If alumni and former players aren't hearing anything, might feel like they're invading or whatever, but Silverfield, opening that door, welcoming them in, that is kind of a little bit more friendly family environment there, makes the team really feel like a family. Hey, these guys played for us and all this. But yeah, I don't think Pittman was necessarily intentionally barring former players. I think it was just the intentionality and the just kind of the mindset Silverfield has to make sure and get those guys in. I think it speaks volumes to the players saying, hey, I'll care for you after that, even if, hey, you weren't my players, but you were still at this school I'm at. Also, I think it's a very big unifying point for the state of Arkansas, I know we have a state, but with having one major university in the state, you do have kind of that state camaraderie with it. And him being so welcoming of former players, as so many of us remember so well, it's awesome. It's a great point. So, I think it's definitely I don't know if there really could be a negative to him doing that, but definitely good to see.
Right. Well, and there has been some talk about how, that's a good thing for, Silverfield, because if it's like, if you're a guy that you bring in former players, have them around, you've got somebody that's kind of essentially got your back, because, you're welcoming them back. They understand to see how hard you're working. So if like things get a little rocky or whatever, these guys can chime in and be like, hey, I've been around, I've been in practice, XYZ, just give it some time and things like that. And I think it's just an extra layer of support. And that was said on Pig Trail Nation, and you talking with Hillis, and then the football account puts out today. They had Travis Swanson come in, as we know, one of the best Arkansas linemen, played at Detroit, and was actually, didn't realize this, was at Detroit at the same time Silverfield was in Detroit. So there was some overlap there. But, he had him in and talking to the guys about financial literacy. Like, two really good things there. You have another former player in the building already, but one that is coming in and can relate to these guys, maybe not on necessarily the level of NIL, but in terms of money, how to be, financially responsible, literate with your money, a guy that played in the NFL and now is part of a firm like that. And, it's like a really good thing that he's doing for these players, and, two birds with one stone mentality of, it's like, hey, you're getting these former players in, but he's also trying to help the current players there with making them responsible young adults with their money.
Yeah, and also, the obvious point, it applied with Hills as well. Having those guys that not only were they like, oh, they were great Arkansas players, but they were in the NFL, like, so they know what it takes to get to that level. They know what's like at that next level. So I think that's also very good to talk with the players about. Like, hey, it just might help with the focus and what to expect and what you really do need to put in to get to that level. Because as a college athlete, that's going to be your top priorities to get to that next level. So I think that's also kind of a underlying understood part of having them in, but still feel like it needs at least mentioned there. So
right. And I can't wait to see who else he has come in. But you gotta love to see that after the past few years. Like, yeah, last year they did a little bit more with the having Darren McFadden back and kind of honoring him with like the players patch on anybody that wears number 5. But prior to that, I think it was a couple seasons ago, there was a little back and forth, and maybe it was a misunderstanding about, I forgot who all it was, but a few players like post game, not being allowed in locker rooms and stuff like that. I don't know if you remember that, but
yeah, I remember. So, I'm trying to think who it was, but I'm drawing a blank.
I feel like one of the names,
back?
I think one of them might have been Jarius Wright, I want to say, or maybe Joe Adams. But that, and I think that sparked a lot of like a lot of Arkansas people just not being happy with, like, these were some Arkansas greats. It's like, why
it's Jarius Ryan, Joe Adams. You're right.
Yeah, there you go. So, and for them to come back now, and before his even first game has been played, he's welcoming these players back, and not just like saying, oh, it's something he's put out in the public over national television, and so yeah. I love to see it. It's good for building your program. And, these guys, like you said, can come in, have the NFL experience, be able to talk to this team, what it takes to get there, and different things like that. And so, I love to see that. And then something else that's new that I saw the other day is they're doing a new thing called War on the Hill, the Razorbacks official off-season competition. I don't know if you saw anything about that. So they had certain players that were, I guess, captains or almost like GMs, and they did a draft for these players. And they went through, don't know what all this offseason competition is going to hold, but it's like you have two guys that are the main captains, and they went through and drafted guys from the team to be on their team for this offseason competition. So, like, it's cool and innovative things that he's bringing into the program that, a little bit more energy. It seems like they're doing more things than, you're having off-season practice, but things that gets kids excited and lets them have fun, but also a cool thing that you can share out with your fans and, let them know what's going on with the program as well.
Yeah, no, I think that's definitely a cool idea. Also, competitive nature, it's more than just, hey, rep some football. It's also, head-to-head competition, getting the guys, with that competitive nature, utilizing that to make them be the best version of themselves that they can be. But, definitely excited to see what all that kind of entails and kind of see that play out.
Yeah, quickly we'll run through these teams that got quote unquote drafted. So you have the Rack City roster with team captains of CJ Brown and Quincy Rhodes. And their team consists of quarterback Braden Fuller, running back Sutton Smith, and running back Jasper Parker, wide receiver Blair Irvin, offensive lineman Kobe Branham, Josiah Clemens, Trent Sellers, defensive lineman Charlie Collins, Trajine Odom, linebacker Phoenix Jackson, defensive backs Lakai Rowland and LaMarcus Hicks, and then kicker Braden McAllister and long snapper Adam Johnston. The next team, Hog Team 6, whose captains are Bradley Shaw and Jaden Platt, have wide receivers Jamari Hawkins, Ismail Cisse, and Courtney Crutchfield, tight ends Ty Lockwood and Hudson Hendricks. Offensive lineman Kerry Clayton and Alex Johnson, Tim Don, defensive lineman Danny Beal, Keandre Johnson, Day Sims, linebacker Wyatt Simmons, defensive back Kamari House, and John House the fifth. Hog Warriors roster, captains offensive lineman Bryant Williams and defensive back Christian Harrison. And their team is composed of wide receivers Chris Marshall and Jalen Brown, offensive lineman Malachi Breland, Jonas Nance, Terrence Robinson Jr., defensive lineman Hunter Osborne, Donovan Witten, Jamonte Waller, Carlin Jones, linebacker Ben Bogle, DBs Jaheim Johnson, Landon Phipps, Brandon Ford, Kendrick Williams, and punter Connor Smith. Watch Greatness roster with captains of tight end Matt Adcock and DB Carter Studemeyer, with running backs Markeelan Batten, wide receivers Donovan Fappel, DeQuane Provo, tight end Maddox Lassiter, offensive lineman Davian Witherspoon, Peyton Park Smith, Colton Yard, and defensive lineman Colton Yarbrough, linebackers Preston Davis, Joseph Witt, Ja'Cory Smith, DBs Tyler Scott, Ian Williams, Cortland Marsh, punter Gavin Rush, and long snapper Max Schmidley. WTD Work Till We Die roster with captains Braylon Russell and defensive lineman David Oakey. Their team consists of quarterback Cade Trotter, running back Cam Settles, Antonio Jordan, tight end Gavin Garrettson, offensive lineman Cash Courtney and Adam Hawks, and Kavian Broussard, defensive lineman Caleb Bell, Steven Souls, Anthony Kennedy, linebacker Jeremy Evans, DB Kiari McGuire, Braden Lee, Tay Lockett, and CJ Hairston. Silverbacks roster with captains Caden Kittler and DB Miguel Mitchell consists of quarterback KJ Jackson, quarterback AJ Hill, running back TJ Hodges, wide receiver Monte Harrison, offensive lineman Brooks Edmondson, Aaron Smith, defensive lineman Reginald Vaughn, linebackers Jaquavian Smith, Mason Shuck, DB Shelton Lewis, Blake Brisker, Jalen Copeland, kicker Max Gilbert, and kicker Charlie Vondermeeden. So that's your teams for this competition. So, some seem a little more stacked than others, but it's going to be fun to see what competition this sparks and what are they going to do exactly? Because that's, we know they're doing some type of competition, but is there going to be more that comes out about what they're going to do and how they're going to compete?
Yeah. So based on the rosters, it makes me immediately think that, it's not going to be a scrimmage. I mean, you have
Right.
a few teams with no quarterback, and then you have both both of our other quarterbacks on one. My initial reaction is, hey, it's going to be strength and conditioning. It's going to be, hey, like your baseline at the beginning, and whichever team increases either their conditioning or their strength based on the weight or the times. I feel like that's going to kind of be maybe the competition aspect of it.
Right.
But obviously, we don't really know, so I could be way wrong. But that's just kind of my first initial reaction based on that.
Yeah. And then the other thing that, while sticking on the topic of football, that, Silverfield talked about this week was that he got asked about, is there going to be a spring game this year? Because as we all know, last year that kind of got canceled, really never scheduled to make up, and they never even made up really the autograph portion of that. And I think that disappointed a lot of fans, especially all the fans that they didn't cancel it until the morning of. So you had a lot of fans that were driving up or on their way up, and it wasn't a great look. So
No, for sure.
So he said that there is going to be a spring game. It might be a little bit of hybrid where they're going to do some, actually game time scrimmage work, but also, some other events and things like that. So I'll be interested to see what comes out about that. He said it should be soon. So, usually spring games are held in March. So something in the next week or so probably would be expected. And then, people can kind of start planning for that.
Yeah. I think, especially with the new coaching staff, I think having a spring game where the fans can kind of see what they got, especially with this many new guys coming in, I think that's going to be super important. And, I think it's good for the fan base just to kind of see some of these guys. So, it'll be interesting to see what they do for sure.
Right. And Transplant Texan says, Silverfield motivating players, building relationships between teammates with competitive games, not silly skits like Hog Island. He said, thumbs up there. So,
hey, you know what? We'll always take an increase in competition based on some of the competitive spirits we saw at times this past season, or sorry, lack of competitive spirits by, a few plays here and there. So, hey, anything to keep the competition going and keep guys motivated, I'm all for it. So,
right. I agree. I'm right there with you. So, it seems like things are going well. I know, with how the transfer portal has been going, and then, with, right now being what used to be the traditional quote unquote signing day, usually guys don't early sign and things like that. And, or they usually early sign and don't wait all the way till February. They're usually already signed by now. But you had a handful of guys that did sign, one of those being Antonio Sando Bascom, one of the community college guys that will join in the summer. You also had another JUCO guy in Jalen Allen coming over from Hutch Community College, and he is a former North Little Rock kid. 6'7", 245 on the D line. What was that?
Did he play with Quincy?
I want to say yes.
Okay, I wasn't sure, but hey, 6'7" on the edge, I'll take that. That's Landon Jackson size right there. So,
right, and then of course they made it official with Hank Hendricks. Coming in, we knew all that debacle and how that went down, but he's officially signed and will be joining the team in May. And there's some videos and stuff from the first kind of practice, I guess. They quote unquote being with the Hog or the War on the Hill type of thing. They said Tour of Duty Volume 1, so got kicked off today. So that competition's in full swing. So it's gonna be fun to see what transpires during the spring and what we're talking about after spring. What we get. What we get out of that news wise. Do we get an idea of depth chart, where guys stand, things like that?
I was laughing at what Transplant said. Yep.
He said, did he say 6'7"? Where's Hunter?
Hey, you know what? I am I feel like I'm too old to be doing that trend, but I do find myself occasionally, I'm like, oh, even just explaining stuff to my wife. Oh, like 6, maybe 7, and she's like, don't. I'm like, I'm not trying to do the trend. It's just
It's
how
like
I act
that's what happened
sometimes.
to
But hey, you
yeah,
know what? I'm all for it. Whatever.
exactly. So, yeah, so I mean, I'm excited. I know we've talked about how we both got optimism for, so far where we're at to this point. Yes, we still haven't seen a single snap under Silverfield yet, but
Yeah.
the things he's done up to this point, um, you know, I can't help but feel confident. And I think, he's saying all the right things, doing all the right things. So, um,
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I saw that
uh,
transplant.
um, but he's doing all the right things right now. And so,
Yeah.
hopefully that means, with what he's doing with the team, these guys are really bought in, bonded. And, I think expectations are going to be, I don't want to say low, but I mean, middle of the road for this upcoming season. I know we've talked
Yeah.
about 6-6, maybe 5-7, but I mean, who knows? Maybe he could come out and surprise some people, but I'm not going to hold my breath on that just because
if
it is
I'm
year
being,
one.
I pride myself on at least being realistic with stuff.
Right.
Looking at, the job he's done to this point. Realistically, when you consider everything, the issues we've had, the conversations about lack of funding, just kind of where the program was last few years, all of that considered, I'm giving him, a solid 8.5 or 9. Now, granted, with the expectations he kind of gave in that initial press conference, maybe more like a 7. Just I feel he almost hyped everyone up it to a sense.
Right.
But looking at the schedule, I think maybe 5-7 would be kind of more realistic. But I have to admit, even if we go 5-7 next year, I'm happy as long as we don't get blown out those 7 games.
Right. At least be competitive in
Be
in
competitive.
those games.
Yes, be competitive in those games. Don't be losing by 30, losing by 40. Keep your head up high and fight to the end. I think that our fan base is at least acknowledgeable of if, hey, as long as the team's giving 100%, like you see them not quitting and giving up, I think the fans love that. So,
Right.
Even if you go 5-7, don't make a bowl game, but of your 7 losses, you only get blown out maybe one time to some top 15 SEC team, whatever.
More than likely Georgia.
Okay, I wasn't going to say Georgia because we're playing them here. I was going to try to say maybe a road game to at least give that benefit of the doubt. But, as long as you can keep it competitive and give the fans a team that they're at least proud to get behind, and, the players put 100% out there, the fans will back them. So, I think
Right.
that's one that as long as your team doesn't quit, I think you still got the support of the fan base regardless. And obviously, year one, you're going to still have support. But I think our fan base, if they're being realistic, as long as the team doesn't give up, they're happy right now with
Right.
where we've been the last few years and kind of some of the games we've seen.
Right. And I know Silverfield said it a couple times that, his goal is to win now. He said, I'm not talking, a year from now, 2 years from now. He's like, our goal is going to be win now. And yes, that's a great goal. What that entails, win now, I mean, you could look at that multiple different ways. But, the fact that he's not saying, all right, I'm going to come in and try to give me a year or two to build this program back up. And then we'll see
I like
that.
the mindset. I like the approach of he's not pre-building excuses for being unsuccessful. He's not, oh, well, I said it was going to take a couple years. Oh, I said that this wasn't going to work right away. He's eliminating those cop-outs, excuses right now, and you got to love that. So,
right. I agree. Transplant Texan mentioned it, and we kind of hit on it too. Is he said Silverfield culture is already better than prior regimes. He admits you have to embrace the past, former players, as much as you look forward to the future, where you're seeing former Hogs embraced, and that's kind of what we hit on. So, hopefully it's continuing to build and say the right things, and as we go through spring, it's going to be fun to see, what gets posted social media, how much
and
you
how the
connect
team
to
kind
the
of comes
fans.
together with it all too.
Yeah. So that'll be good to see. And then we had the big announcement earlier this week. Arkansas signed with a new, I guess, event group. And
Yeah.
shortly after, as part of that, and part of that is bringing NIL. It's the same group that's partnered with, I believe, I saw the schools, Tennessee, NC State, several other big time programs.
Yeah. I mean, when you have your net guys like Luke Combs and Morgan Wallen doing stadium tours this upcoming summer, and Arkansas doesn't get any of it, hey, you kind of need to at least try to get in on one of those,
Right.
because what those can bring in are monumental. And also, I mean, what was it? Friday they announced, or like they had announced on Friday that they were joining with them, and Monday they announced, hey, Post Malone and Jelly Roll.
Right.
So hey,
It's
you
like
know what?
casually
I'm happy with
throwing that
that.
out there. Yeah.
It's very quickly, like 3 days later, you are announcing a fairly big name concert. So, I think that's. I saw one thing on Twitter, it was like, love how Arkansas is always like 7 or 8 years late to the party, but hey, as long as they're doing it now, it's better to start late and do it than to never do it at all.
Right.
So, hey, you know what? It's
Right. And
steps
I
being
think,
taken in the right direction. And hey, we get more concerts. I'm not opposed to that.
right. And, it was such a big hit the previous time they did that. And then, when they just kind of didn't do anything else, like to your point, you're like all these other artists doing stadium tours, and then they're just like,
yeah,
we're going to sit here. And, this also tells me, like you said, how quickly all this was announced, it's probably been in the works for a little bit. And,
probably so.
And I'm glad to see it. I think they said, give or take, you're looking at an additional maybe 3 to 4 million in NIL revenue by adding things like this. So,
Yeah, but hey, you know what? It's 3 or 4 million that you weren't going to have otherwise.
right.
I'll take it gladly. So,
Yeah. Transplant Texan said, I'm not quote unquote all in, but Silverfield is giving me more reasons to buy it. And I agree. He that's his motto, as we know, is all in. And I think a lot of fans are going to be in this case. They're going to be slightly hesitant to just
I'm all
fully,
in to the most I can be without watching him play yet.
right.
He's given me a lot more reasons to be all in than not in. So,
100%.
Do what you can right now. So we'll
Yeah.
see how it all plays out. But I'm excited for it right now.
Yeah, I agree. It's going to be fun to see. And then as we jump over, no midweek game this week, as we mentioned, but Arkansas will be back on the court Saturday at 11 a.m. as they head on the road to take on Mississippi State. Mississippi State coming in this matchup 11-11, 3-6 in the SEC. Arkansas 16-6, 6-3 in the SEC. Mississippi State coming off a loss Saturday to Missouri. Obviously, we know we had that loss to Kentucky, but them having kind of very similar to us, bye week this week, essentially no midweek game. So both teams getting the week off and getting back to it this weekend. And this is another Mississippi State team that they just don't blow you out of the water. I mean, the one guy that you have to talk about this Mississippi State team is right, Josh Hubbard. Their guy that leads them in points, assists, 32 minutes a game, 20.8 points, 2.4 rebounds, 3.5 assists, 1.4 steals, shoots 39% from the field, 78% from the line, and 32% from deep.
Now, the thing I do love about this matchup is Hubbard's 6 foot. So we've seen smaller guards struggle against our guys. Also, like you've said before, I'll take our guards over almost every backcourt in the country. Thing I really love, though, is that he's shooting 39% from the floor, which tells me, hey, yes, he does lead them in assists, but only 3.5 assists leads your team. So it's very much a hey, give me the ball, let me go make something happen. And based on the 39%, he probably takes some very bad, ill-advised shots. So also with our on-ball ability between our guards, and you also throw in Billy up there on guarding him, I think that we're going to be able to rotate through enough and keep the other guys off ball enough with how he plays, keep them rested. I think that our defense is going to get to him. Wouldn't shock me if you see him put up 25 points, but off of like 6 of 23 or 6 of 24 shooting and forcing some shots. So that would not shock me at all, honestly.
Yeah, and if you take a look at just SEC play, just the start of SEC play for him, and that started with Texas. He was 10 of 31, Oklahoma 11 of 22, Kentucky 7 of 16, Alabama 6 of 16, and this is just field goal makes and misses. Ole Miss 3 of 16, A&M 5 of 14, Vanderbilt 2 of 10.
That
LSU,
was the only game in conference he scored single digits. But
LSU 4 of 12, and then their most recent game against Missouri, he took 20 shots, made 7.
Yeah. I mean, it wouldn't shock me to see him put up a stat line kind of like he did against Missouri. 7 of 20 shooting, 4 of 12 from 3, and putting up 20-plus points. You know, it's a good stat line to put up 20 points, but when you put up 20 shot attempts and 12 of those were threes, that's not as good. And if he does that, I'm more than happy because I've seen him play a couple times, and it looks to me, if you can mess with him, you got a really good shot beating him.
Right, because it's like if you look at, the splits and things with this team, their other guard, Jaden Epps, is their second leading scorer at 15 points a game. But then after that, you drop to single digits with their third leading scorer, Jabari McGee, another guard. So their top 3 scorers guards. He's only at 8.4 points. So, you kind of see Hubbard is the focal point of this team. And if you can limit him or shut him down, that's kind of
he's averaging right at 3 assists in conference play. So, I mean, it's not like he's A-Cup where he's able to facilitate the ball to that extent. The most he's had is 5 assists. Granted, that's still good. But when you're also shooting the ball as often as he is, that's not too good.
No.
So, also, I do like that he is averaging over 2 turnovers a game. I think with our length and athleticism, I think we could really mess with him, especially with him being a smaller guard, smaller in terms of SEC guards. But yeah, I think we'll at least be able to contain him. He may get his in points, but hopefully the efficiency's not there. And, you really need to come out and play strong. You need some strong defense. Our defense has not been the same last few games. And it has been at some times. And we've kind of yet to see a strong defensive showing on the road. So really need to see that. If you can get a strong defensive performance on the road away from your home crowd, I think that right there will do wonders. Even just come selection Sunday and just seeing that, hey, neutral and road games, they can still have that same intensity on the defensive side of the ball. I think that's going to earn some respect from the committee. And, we're not really like on the bubble right now for making the tournament, but if you want an easier path and you want to be one of those top 4 or 5 seeds, we're kind of on the outside looking in right now. So you really got to win some of these road games and win them impressively. So that's one that, it's difficult. And I was actually going to comment on what Transplanted said if you wanted to put that up there.
Yeah. Transplant Texan says, concerned Malik Thomas is wearing an ortho boot at Saturday's postgame presser. The pressure on the freshman duo to perform every game is unbelievable. And, you hit on it too, but, Cal did come out and say that he's fine. He's planning on playing. So I think that was more precautionary.
Yes, but he won't be 100% most likely. And I think that with the personnel Mississippi State throws out there, it would be wise maybe not play him as much, but just kind of limit what he's having to do.
Right.
And so this might be a good spot for Knox and Wagner and some of those guys to get going. Because, I mean,
Billy.
Wagner's averaging 5.9 points per game against Power 5 competition. Pringle, 4.4 points. Knox, 7.1 points. So those three really need to get going.
Right.
So it's one of those where not the script of this game, because we don't know for sure yet, but based on the way that Mississippi State plays and the way that they're built, I think this is a game where you can almost be cautious with how you use Malik and have him as more of a secondary role for this game in hopes of sparking and getting some of these other guys going. Because, I mean, with the last few games, we really need to get one of those three guys I said going. And if you have all three of them playing poorly, that's not good. You need at least – you don't need all 8 of your rotation guys playing strong every game, but you need 6 or 7 playing strong. Right. And right now we are having maybe 5 most games, maybe. And so, I mean, it's difficult. I mean, one guy that's actually shocked me, not really shocked, but if you look at the season as a whole versus against Power 5 competition, Malik Ewan has a higher point per game, rebound, and assist per game against Power 5 competition than he does on the season. On the season, he's only averaging 9.9 points, but he's averaging 11.2 points against Power 5 competition. So, that kind of goes to a point Hobbs was making last week on, it's going to be Ewan over Pringle. I think you almost need to start Ewan in one game, light that fire under Pringle and get him going. That might be the best bet. But
all you've seen from Ewan is just been,
8 to 12 points, 4 to 8 rebounds every game.
Well, I was just going to say, too, against Power 4 schools, and especially in conference play, that game that he's been playing has just been elevated. Like, he's taking his game to the next level when you're playing that next level competition, whereas it almost feels like Pringle is the opposite.
Yeah. And, I mean, it's one of those where the ability and the potential of this team is crazy good. But we are yet to see that consistency at that level. Obviously, it's hard to play at that level all the time. But you can't come out at home and be down what they were against Kentucky that early. You can't go on the road and get down the way they have been some of these games and fight back. It's one of those where you need to have a little bit more urgency in how you start a game. Because, we might be good in the second half, but if you dig too big of a hole in the first half, it's not going to matter. We've seen that a handful of times.
Right. It's like, you look at the Georgia game. Got down early, we fought back, but by the time you got it back and tied up, you ran out of gas. And kind of a similar type of situation in Kentucky is it's like they got out to that early lead where part of that was they just couldn't miss. I mean, part of that, but also your defense lacked a little bit.
And Kentucky came out shooting strong, and they came out with their backs against the wall. I mean, they just lost by 25 points at Vandy. So, obviously, they were kind of already not happy. But they came out strong. And, I'm not trying to discredit Kentucky at all. But if we even had just an average shooting night, you're talking about a different outcome on that game.
Right.
And, I think they did mess with us some. But I also think that's one of those instances where we didn't seem as fired up as we should be. And so it's almost one of those, like, we've seen the intensity and the focus on the road struggle. You can't let it start happening at home. Yeah. And, yes, was it some extra stuff that was going on, maybe messing with them? But you still got to rein that in, and you still got to focus and put it on your 100% because, I mean, a lot of things that guys maybe don't even think about. Yeah, okay, cool. We're top 25. We're doing good. We should win this game. Yeah, but also, like, if your ultimate goal is to make it to the next level, they're looking at how you handle adversity, how you react in every little situation scenario. So you
Right.
can't let up at all, because any sign of weakness, oh, he missed 3 shots in a row, then he went to the sideline, throwing his arms around, complaining about something. No, you can't be doing that, because they do look at players' character as much as anything else. So that's one of those where you almost have to be conscious about how you handle every situation and scenario, because there are eyes on you, especially with some of the talent that some of our guys have. So
Mhm.
that's something that maybe goes unnoticed at times or flies under the radar. But with that being your goal, that's going to at least be looked at. So,
Yeah, I agree 100% there. And it's like you hit on those guys not getting going, and that's what kind of Transplant Texan said here is, Hogs are consistently benefiting from having retention player are not consistently benefiting from having retention players on the roster. Billy Goat has usurped the player who went to the draft combine and arguably never returned the same as he was. And then you could almost say the same about Carter Knox. We haven't seen that same guy, maybe flashes that we saw last year. And so it's like you have those guys with experience, even guys like Pringle that we talked about, where you've got retention players, but also experienced players that we're not benefiting from any of that experience and retention right now.
yeah, it is difficult because Knox is a fantastic player, but he has struggled in a lot of the big games. So part of that, I think, is what Cal acknowledged earlier in the season after a couple rough games about how, hey, at the combine, he was told what he needs to work on, what he needs to improve on. He came back with that mindset. But what's best for the team right now might be a different set, focus on what you're already good at. So
Right.
it's having to balance those where you show that you can do what you're being asked to do better by scouts, but also doing what's best for the team. And so it's also a very difficult line to walk. Um, but also just, it's harder because it's almost like he's almost like thinking, hey, I need to do better on this and that. And he's forcing things by trying to show that at times. And that also makes it difficult because he's at his best when it's catch and shoot or just catch and drive, where he's not having to stop and think about what to do. It's just
Right.
basketball instinct and IQ taking over. That's where he's at his best. But it's definitely looked like in a couple of the big games where he's almost frozen and thinking once he got, okay, this is what I need to do, and almost overthinking in a sense to where then it
Mhm.
slows him down. Obviously, I was not ever in his situation, so I don't know. But that's just kind of my observations and what I'm thinking on it.
Right.
But also, I think his big thing is also needing to kind of take a step back and see what he needs to do for the team as opposed to what he needs to do for himself right now to get to the next level. And that's definitely hard to ask of anyone.
Right. 100%. So, we'll see. This will be a good game for this team to, you know, go on the road and get a confidence building win. You won on the road against Oklahoma, build off that, and kind of right the ship and not let the Kentucky game bleed over into, we've already seen these struggles. So maybe this week off, let them guys, Cal said they got 2 days off from practice to begin with, but not having game midweek, let these guys hit the reset button a little bit and be ready for the second half of the season.
Yeah.
But
And maybe those 2 days off of practice, it seems like almost every single game when they come out for the second half that Pringle's got that compression band around his back. Maybe like little things like that, where this not having a midweek game will help.
yeah,
Because, obviously we don't know how big of an issue that is for him right now.
right. All those little minor aches and pains and things that build up.
Exactly. If you're aching and paining in, 8 or 9 different spots, it's going to build up to where, hey, it hurts to do a lot of things.
Right.
So
Just have a good recovery week with no game. You're not getting
exactly.
additionally banged up. So then, you can get the treatment, take all the ice baths, whatever, treatment is recommended for,
Exactly. Now, obviously, do I think he's going to come out and put up 20 points, 10 rebounds a game, probably not, but maybe sees some more of that fire from having these couple
Right.
days off. Transplant if you want to put that up there. No, I mean obviously this is I think this is more of a rivalry for Kentucky than they like to admit and let on.
Right.
So.
Yeah, Transplant text and saying Kentucky fans have made it clear since Saturday that Arkansas is a rival. If the Hogs were not, Big Blue Nation will not be posting the game score on football tweets. And if we're going to get into this, we talked about this before the show. There has been a lack thereof, an absence of Kentucky fans. Last year we saw them in the chat a little bit. This year, not so much until after Saturday.
Our
episode on Sunday,
the game, all of those Kentucky Sports Radio guys said we'd win, so they weren't talking at all,
right?
And I hate to, we weren't really talking either. It was okay, whatever. Granted, yes, it's a big, big, big win for Kentucky. They came in, they played well, they did deserve it, but also like they kind of needed it. They needed it,
right?
So.
Right. It's just because you got this win here doesn't mean go ahead and start chirping after you just got your socks beat off by 25 by Vandy. So, you won this game.
We also beat by 30.
Right. So. Yeah, it's funny, though, because they came in, blew up our recap episode on Sunday, decided to jump in the comments of different, with this and that, and, saying, oh, yeah, and talking about all the technicals and things like that. But, of course, they're going to do that after a win and not up until this point.
Was the Doug show. And what was that? I heard you say something about they were saying they were 7-1 at Bud or something. Because
so
I got the receipts on that if they want. I mean, granted, it's still not good. They were 5-1, but not 7. At least be real. If you want to go back to 7 wins, it was 7-4. And also, Arkansas is 3-1 in the last 4 at Rupp. If you want to look overall, the last 7 meetings, Arkansas leads 4-3. So,
the comment was UK 7-1 in Dud Walton Arena. To your point, it's not great, but it's not 7-1. You're talking about that, and it's interesting. One of the things that I got thought
and
was
I'm not even mad about the record. I'm just mad, hey, if you're going to talk smack, at least get your numbers right.
Be accurate. Yes.
Now. That's not asking for much. I mean, I know y'all probably struggle to count. I'm going to probably give feedback on that one because they're probably higher than us in education as a state, but still, at least get your numbers right.
Right. The one I thought was pretty funny is, we talked about how, at the end, we thought, of course, at the end of the game, Brazil had that frustration technical that he got, and how we were talking about that the Kentucky player sold it a little bit. Well, a comment came in saying they said, seriously, you guys talking about Trent flopped? They said ignorant Brazil grabbed jersey and tossed him and fouls. And technical,
it's not my fault you have a junior high-sized kid playing in the SEC. Sorry.
And they also said you guys were the only 3 who brought up that viewpoint of the last 5 minutes of fouls, talk, and flopping, etc. Grammar could use some work here. It was a frustration
foul, but it looked a lot worse than it actually was.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes, I agree. Bad move by Brazil.
I opened X today, and I'm still seeing tweets about them beating us. So, I mean, I'm pretty sure Hog fans have moved on.
Right. They're getting ready for
5 days ago.
Right.
Pretty sure we've moved on, but obviously, some of their fans haven't. And for a minute there, it looked like they were going to lose to Oklahoma last night. I mean, they ended up winning handedly, but for a minute there, it was pretty tight.
Yeah. I mean, it's like we've seen this time and time again from Kentucky fans about them wanting to hate on Cal, but then, as soon as Pope started doing bad, they were like, starting to freak out. Then they won some games. And they're
always greener. I saw that post.
Yeah.
It's the most overreactive fan base in the country.
100%. Transplant Texan said, did Caleb say technicals? Doug Shows just called another one.
Yeah. Yeah, that is Doug Shows definitely makes it a show about himself.
He said, by the way, Doug threw a few more texts on Sunday at the Memphis game.
Yeah, no, I don't know if you saw that game. Man.
A little bit power trip in there, if I would say so. But Transplant Texan also mentioned the two other officials are typically listed as third crew member when calling games at Arkansas. That indicates they are not as strong / seasoned. Should have never been paired with Doug Shows.
Yeah, no, I fully agree with that.
So it's like they're not going to come out and try to overrule or say, no, let's not. Let's review this and not call it that way and things like that. So he said ESPN didn't send the best announcing crew and the SEC assigner didn't send the best officiating crew. A game of this caliber should have been better staffed. Also should have been on game day, if I say so myself. But, I mean, the Kansas BYU game, I will say lived up to the hype. If you watched it, BYU winning handily, and then they fight back, and good ending to that game. Hobbs not joined us tonight. He had some work obligations, but he said, hey, I'm on the way home. Why is all the Kentucky fans in the comments? Where are our fans?
Are you talking about tonight? Because I must not be seeing all of these comments because I'm seeing Transplant Texan talking a lot.
No. He's talking about on the video from Sunday.
Okay, that makes more sense. Yeah, no, again, Kentucky fans just love to talk after the result. And, it's one of those where it's don't really know what else to tell you. I mean, like I saw one guy who kept saying that they were the number one basketball program in the country. I'm like, okay, like I get you're good, but you're not number one. You're not the same since. You've not been the same in the last 5 or 6 years. Yes, I get some of that's because of Cal, but at least be realistic. I am agreeing with you that you're a good program. I'm just saying you're not number one. And yeah, I don't know. Some people are just, you can never make anyone happy.
Right. And so, yeah. But at the end of the day,
thanks for ditching us, not Hobbs.
Hey, he's trying to make sure he's all good to be in Arlington next week with us. So,
hey, you know what? Hey, you gotta do what you gotta do. I get it.
Exactly. So, but yeah. So 11 a.m. Saturday, Arkansas gets back in action on the road at Mississippi State. It'll be a good opportunity to get another road win, but also, get back on track against, as Hobbs mentioned last week, a not very good Mississippi State team.
Again, if you can limit Hubbard or at least make him uncomfortable, I think you got it. It's just one of those, he is a good player, but I think our depth, size, athleticism is going to be able to mess with him some. So I'm not, Grant, I said the same thing before Kentucky. I wasn't too worried. I'm not super worried. I will go ahead and knock on wood, though, just to make everyone happy. But yeah, it'll still be a good game just because it's also on the road, and we all know we don't play as well on the road. So
right. Transplant Texas said Kentucky fans couldn't even get their insults correct. It wasn't a T-shirt game; it was a rally towel game.
Gee,
and said Kentucky didn't even garner free.
Right, but hey, go ahead.
Right, and then he said Kentucky didn't even garner free T-shirts or replica jerseys for students. It was a rally towel game. By the way, Hunter did not order towels for the Upper Bowl. Some season tickets are better than others.
Shout out to Wright's Barbecue. I don't know if you saw what he said, but they posted that if you have like an upper deck ticket for that game, you could bring it by and you got free something. I forgot what it was in honor of knocking a towel to hope it at least made up for it. So, hey, you know what? Yeah, as someone saying the upper deck, it would have been nice to have a rally towel. I'm not going to lie. So,
hey, just another reason why Wrights is so fantastic. So,
Yes, sir, it is.
but as we continue on, get ready to wrap up here. We got to talk some baseball, and unfortunately, we don't have Hobbs here. But
Free sodas is what Transplant
there you
Texans
go.
said.
Yeah.
That's what it was. Okay. I was like, I forgot what it was, but
as we know, next week in Arlington. But that's not what I want to talk about. I want to talk about, we're talking about former players and stuff with football. Hands off to Arkansas baseball right now for what they announced earlier this week by honoring former coach Norm DeBryan, wearing special jerseys in March against, or not March, but in a conference game against Florida. Going to be Norm nights. They're going to be wearing the classic jerseys, classic hat with the old Hog logo on the back of it. If you hadn't seen that on social media, go check out the Arkansas baseball account. They did a whole video reveal thing, and with coach, and he's still around the program in some capacity. It's almost like he was in a meeting and still around with the staff. So you love to see that. But they announced that. And then, with all that they're going to wear that for the game. And now everybody's just waiting for, hey, where's the link to go buy one of those? Because those are pretty sharp. And then you had announced earlier this week, too, coaches preseason all-SEC list for Arkansas: Gabe Geckel, Kahil Loy, Ryder Helfrich, and Cam Kozel.
Yeah, I love it.
And so – Dave had the Swatters Club earlier this week, and exactly what we were just saying, Transplant Texan. Yep. He said if Hunter wants to make some money for baseball, sell those Norm DeBryan commemorative jerseys and hats. Sign me up. But so Arkansas was predicted to finish 4th in the SEC, and 4 Razorbacks were selected the preseason all-conference team that we just listed. So Arkansas is picked to finish behind LSU, Texas, and Mississippi State in the preseason poll. And the Razorbacks did receive 2 first-place votes. LSU, of course, last year's national champion, picked to win the league. Texas was last season's SEC champion. And Mississippi State is a popular resurgent pick this year after the Bulldogs hired former national champion coach Brian O'Connor away from Virginia. Oh, what it would be fantastic to have Hobbs here to talk about Mississippi, because we know how he likes to talk about that.
Oh, yeah.
We'll have to see what he thinks on Sunday. But
sounds good.
The Razorbacks will not play LSU or Texas during the regular season this year.
Or Tennessee or Vandy. I was about to say, Transplant just said that we have a very favorable conference schedule. So it is nice. Your kind of last 4 or 5 years, your top 4 or 5 SEC teams, we're only playing one of them, and it's Florida here. So very favorable conference schedule. I'm pretty happy with it. So in terms of being concerned, I think it's just because there is a lot of uncertainty in terms of
all the turnover.
Yeah, all the turnover, I think, is kind of the big thing. But, we have faith in Van Horn always. And, I think they'll piece together a solid team again, just like they normally do. So I'm not too concerned that we're predicted to finish 4th. Texas might have the best bullpen in college baseball. If they can get the bats going, they'll be really good.
Mm-hmm.
So, and don't get too comfortable. This is baseball. I agree, which is why I'm at least acknowledging other teams here, Hobbs. So,
oh yeah, but
so that's just kind of my 2 cents on why we're predicted 4th, just the amount of turnover.
Right, and that makes sense too. But this past Monday at the first Swatters Club, Dave, talking about Mississippi State, said they're going to be really tough. They're going to be a better lineup, a bunch of good arms, and we're going to need to be ready to roll. Some other thoughts talking about this team's roster. You've got guys like Aloy and Kozel, who were all SEC last season. Aloy mainly played or hit as our designated hitter, batted .317, 13 home runs, 15 doubles, 70 RBIs. Kozel, second baseman, despite playing most of the year at first due to injury issues, until you had the emergence of Reese Robinette. But Van Horn indicated earlier this week that Kozel has a leg up on the competition. Cam has been playing great at second, a lot better than he was last year, more limber, agile, although he's stronger. He hit the ball the other day that read 417 feet, and I didn't think he hit it that good. But that track man is usually pretty right, and there's a lot of strength out there. And then in reference to Aloy's transition to right field this year, he said he's gotten a lot better. He looks normal out there. What I mean by that is he doesn't catch the ball funny, out of whack. He's a big guy that can run once underway. He's learned about the warning track a little bit. He's not perfect, so I'm going to say he's an average outfielder, but there's average outfielders playing in the big leagues every day. So that gives you some confidence in some of these guys and in their positions. And then talking about a guy like Ryder Helfrich has put himself in a position to be a day one pick in the MLB in the Major League Draft this year. He said the tools are what the tools are, and those are elite. And that's hitting coach Nate Thompson talking about Ryder Helfrich. He said, but the makeup is special too. It's awesome to have that behind the plate. As we know, Arkansas lets its catchers, call most of their games. And Dave mentioned that about how, hey, we let them call the games. If they get in a pinch or a sticky situation, they might ask for suggestions. But, and I think that helps these guys as they get to the big leagues. But he was talking about, I heard a clip where Dave was talking about Ryder Helfrich, and when they were recruiting him and went to watch him play, whenever they went and watched him play, Dave said, we didn't even see him play at catcher. We saw him play at 2 or 3 other positions. He's athletic, just a talented guy. And, now we've got him behind the plate. And, again, he's setting himself up to be a day one pick and potentially start making a lot of money. So, it's going to be fun to watch this team this year and see how they develop. As we mentioned, next week we'll be in Arlington for the opening weekend of the series. It's going to be fun. It's going to be a good time. Hobbs saying, and I'll agree, Texas sucks, overrated as always. But, unfortunately picked ahead of us, picked top 5 in the polls. So we'll just have to see. No midweek game this week, a little bit slower week, but we'll get back to it next week. And then, of course, next weekend we get baseball underway. So we'll also have baseball and basketball to talk about it is February, so March Madness is right around the corner. So it's about to get real busy around here in Arkansas.
Yes, sir.
But with that, we'll get ready to wrap up here. As always, don't forget to like and subscribe to the show on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. Make sure to hit that like and subscribe button. That way you don't miss any time we go live. Hobbs should be back with us on Sunday as we go through and recap the Arkansas-Mississippi State game. Get his thoughts on some of the comments and what Dave had to say at the Swatters Club. Another good week, another good show. Glad to see you jumping in, Transplant Text, and you've been a part of the replay crew, but glad to see you in here on the live show. So before we wrap up and get out of here, you got anything else to say?
Same thing I have every single show. Woo pig always.
Consistency, I like it. So with that, we're going to get wrapped up.
Yeah, have some consistency in the world.
Right, exactly. So with that, we're going to get wrapped up and get out of here, and we'll see you guys on Sunday for our Razor recap. For Zane, myself, and Hobbs in the comments, we'll see you on Sunday.